Okay, so let's be real. Every single nonprofit is sitting on a mountain of data, right? Spreadsheets, reports, all those analytics. But the big question is, how do you turn all those numbers into a story? A story that actually gets people to care, to donate, to act. Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today. How to go from just having data to telling an unforgettable story of impact. Let's do this.
I love this quote from Laura Mills because it just hits the nail on the head. So many nonprofits fall into this trap, right? You try to measure everything, and what happens? You just get a ton of noise and zero clarity. The real goal isn't to track every little thing. It's about finding those few, absolutely vital metrics that prove, without a doubt, that you're making a difference.
All right, this slide basically shows the two roads you can go down. Over on the left, you've got the data dump. We've all seen it. It's that wall of text, tiny fonts, confusing charts. It just makes your brain hurt. But then, on the right, you've got data storytelling. It's clean, it's focused, it's actually interesting. The problem is, way too many organizations are stuck on the left, basically drowning in numbers but desperate for some real insight. So today, we're going to show you how to get from that messy dump to a powerful story.
Okay, first things first, we have to talk about a huge mindset shift. For so long, measurement was all about compliance, wasn't it? It was about ticking boxes and creating reports just to keep funders happy. But here's the thing, the real magic happens when you stop looking at data as a chore and start seeing it for what it is, an incredible tool for learning, for getting better, and for making an even bigger difference.
And look, this isn't some niche thing anymore. More than 70% of nonprofits are already using some kind of data analytics. So we're past the point of asking if we should use data. That ship has sailed. The real question now is how. How do we use it in a way that actually tells our story and, really moves the needle on our impact? So where do you even start with all this? Well, and this might sound counterintuitive, but you don't start with the spreadsheets. You start with the story. Before you even think about a single metric, you have to know what narrative you're trying to prove. It's all about figuring out your why way before you get lost in the what.
And the absolute bedrock for this is something called a theory of change. Now, that might sound a little academic, but think of it like this. It's the recipe for your impact. It's your organization's strategic roadmap. It doesn't just say, our goal is X. It lays out every single ingredient, every step, and every assumption you're making to get there. It is, quite literally, the story of how you believe change happens. And when you do this, you get this amazing logical flow. First, you define that big North Star goal. What's the ultimate impact you want to have? Then you build out that roadmap, your theory of change. And here's the key. It's only then, after all that strategic work is done, that you can pick the outcomes to measure. This is so important because it stops you from wasting time and energy measuring a bunch of stuff that doesn't actually connect to your main goal. This right here is the critical shift. So often we jump right to what should our charts look like? But the folks at Upstream USA say, hold on a second. You have to start with the question. Start with what you want to learn. Ask your team, what do we really need to figure out to get better? Or what would actually prove our big idea is working? When you start there, the right metrics almost magically appear from the answers. Okay, so you've got your story straight. Now it's time to pick your metrics. And I cannot stress this enough. Less is more. This is not about tracking 50 different things just because you can. It's about finding that handful of vital signs that tell the most important parts of your story. We're talking about choosing really powerful key performance indicators, or KPIs. I mean, take a look at these examples. Donor retention rate. That's not just a number, is it? It tells you how strong your relationships are with your supporters. Or cost per dollar raised. That's not just an expense line. It's a measure of how efficient your whole fundraising engine is. See? Every single KPI has to pull its weight and tell a meaningful piece of your story. Let's look at a great real-world example. schools. They had a classic problem. They were collecting data on everything, just way too many outcomes. So they took a step back and said, what really matters to our mission? And they narrowed it all down to just 3 things. Do students feel like they belong? Are we changing the school's culture for the better? And how far is our reach spreading? It's a perfect case of collecting less data, but getting way more insights. All right, you've got your story, you've got your core metrics. Now what? Well, now you've got to make that data come alive. You've got to make it speak. That's what this next part is all about. Using design and visuals to make your impact so clear, so compelling, that anyone can get it in a heartbeat. I mean, just look at Charity Water. They are masters at this. They don't just throw numbers on a page. No, they use incredible visuals to tell the story behind every single project. And the payoff was huge, a 30% jump in donor retention in a single year. That just proves it, right? A good chart isn't just window dressing, it is a serious tool for getting real-world results. We've all seen this, especially in annual reports, right? The big mistake. Pages and pages of dense text, teeny tiny fonts, no breathing room, and maybe one blurry photo. What does that do? It basically screams, "Don't read me." And let's be honest, most people won't even bother trying.
So what's the fix? You've got to start thinking like a designer. Use real, authentic photos that show your work in action. Give your content room to breathe with lots of white space. And please, turn your most important numbers into simple, clean infographics that tell the story in a single glance. It makes all the difference. Okay, this brings us to the grand finale. This is where we put all the pieces together. We're going to take that smart strategy, those vital metrics, and those great visuals, and weave them all into a powerful story of change, a story that will connect with anyone who hears it. And check this out. This framework is amazing because it's something we all intuitively understand, a story. You just plug your own work into this classic arc. You start with the exposition, set the scene, introduce the community you serve. Then comes the conflict. What's the problem? What are you up against? The rising action is all about your work. What are you actually doing day in and day out? And then the climax, bam. This is where your data becomes the hero. This is the proof, the numbers that show the change. And finally, the resolution, your call to action. You invite your audience to step into the story and help write the next chapter. Now, if you really want to make that climax hit hard, there's a next level tool called social return on investment, or SROI. It's a bit more advanced, but it does something pretty incredible. It actually translates your social impact into cold, hard cash value. This lets you walk up to a funder and say with confidence, for every single dollar you give us, we create $5 or $10 in value for the community. It's just one of the most powerful ways to prove your worth, period. So let's just leave it with this one final thought. Every single number in your spreadsheets, every answer on a survey, every metric on your dashboard, it isn't just a data point. It's a piece of a story about a challenge, about progress, about real human impact. Your data is already telling that story. The only question left is, are you listening?